Здравейте на всички! Аз ще започна въведението с това, че имах една мечта. Защо? Защото всъщност сега в момента с Бил накрая ще разберете, че ние имаме обща мечта. Още като малко момиче, растейки в долината на Тракийските царе, аз имах мечта да бъда археолог. Много първолинейно следвах мечтата си, завърших докторат и като всички млади хора от моето поколение, израснали в една част в комунизма, в затворените граници, имах мечта да отида и да уча навън. Завършвайки доктората си, търсих възможности как да я осъществя. Тогава разбрах, че всъщност има програма за обучение на българи, постдокторат в Филд музея в Чикаго, спонсорирана от ABF. И както казва баба ми, няма случайни неща. Аз, без да очаквам, всъщност спечелих тази стипендия не само веднъж, но 2 пъти. Там срещнах моя супервайзор Бил Паркинсън и се оказа, че ние всъщност работиме в една област – праистория. Праисторията няма граници. Всъщност това е мястото, в което хората все още не са сложили тело около себе си. Бидейки във Филд музея, освен научната работа, която свърших, всъщност успях да се запозная с работата на самия музей. Влязах в този музей, бях смазана от мащаба му, от дейностите, които имаше. Бидейки там, научих много неща. Научих се как се правят изложби, как се раждат в офиса на кафе, как след това се събира група, правят ги по-големи. Научих колко трудно е да се постигне всичко това и се чудих, ще имам ли възможност един ден да приложа своя опит. И докато попълвах или се опитвах да запълня някакви прашинки от световната праистория, всъщност открих част от моята семейна история. Най-жизнерадостното възклицание, когато казах, че заминавам за Чикаго, дойде баба ми, тогава на 82, сега е 92 годишна, която по чист казълнъшки диалект възкликна: "Ах, бабие, наистина ли? Той прадядо ти е бил в Чикаго точно 100 години преди теб." Никога нямаше да разбера, че моят прадядо 100 години преди мен е извървял улиците на Чикаго, ако не бях взела тази стипендия. Но да се върна към Филд музея, където наистина се случиха едни фантастични неща за мене самата и за семейството ми. Сблъскахме се с различна култура, научихме се да живеем с тази култура. Мисля, че тя даже ни промени. Успях да завърша една книга в самия Филд музей и да стигнем до момента, в който говорихме за една бъдеща изложба. Приканвайки Бил да покаже българското културно наследство в Филд музея в Чикаго, говорейки си с нашия колега, който по-късно заедно с Бил стана също и куратор, Тила Гюха, с който делях един офис, след което, прибирайки се в България, аз оставих двамата да извървят пътя на изложбата, мислейки, окей, аз съм до тук, просто бях част от разговорите. Но, както пише в Библията, неведоми са пътищата Божии. Всъщност, неочаквано, точно 2 години след като се върнах от Чикаго, беше обявен конкурс за ръководител на експозиционен международен отдел в Националния исторически музей, на който аз се явих и се оказа, че спечелих конкурса. Не мога да ви опиша колко много енергия имах вътре в себе си, носейки този заряд от Филд музея и от работата с колегите там, идвайки в България, опитвайки се да приложа това, което научих. И го прилагаме с колегите ми, които са измежду вас тук в залата. Случиха се много изложби, откакто съм на този пост. Но най-хубавата изложба всъщност предстои Бил да ви разкаже повече за нея.
Здравейте, добър ден. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. When Nancy first asked me to come, I was a little confused, like, why does she want me to go? Now I get it. Now I really see how this project really represents how long-term investment in very specific things can really result in something much bigger, much grander than that investment. As you heard from Peppa, I'm an archaeologist. Like Peppa, we have the best job in the world. As one archaeologist said, it is the most fun you can have with your pants on. And it's not untrue. It's wonderful because we have the luxury, the privilege of studying the ancient past. And why do we study the ancient past? Why do we dig up old things? And we do it because we want to learn how we got where we are today. And one of the themes that we've heard over and over is the importance of understanding the past. And as an archaeologist, I frequently think of a quote by this famous theologian philosopher named G.K. Chesterton. And he said, you know, history it's like a mountain. It's a vantage point where you can look back on the world and see how you got where you are. And this is what we do as archaeology. We study the ancient past to understand how we got where we are today, and we both have the luxury of being able to do this, and I've had the privilege of doing this in Central and Southeastern Europe for the last 30 years of my life. And I was a junior curator at a place called the Field Museum when this guy over here, Gary McDougall, walked into my office one day and said, would you be interested in developing a program where we start thinking about how archaeology and museums can be developed in Bulgaria? And I said, that's a really interesting idea. And as part of that program, we set up a postdoctoral fellowship that brought Peppa to Chicago. And so we met, and when Peppa was in Chicago, while we were working on research projects, one of the other things that we were doing at the museum at the time was an exhibition on ancient Greece. And it just so happened that Peppa was there with our other Bulgarian colleagues, my colleague Attila Juha, who I've worked with in Hungary for the last 25 years. And we started talking about, wow, you know, people in the United States and North America have seen a lot of material from ancient Greece. This is something that's familiar to people from North America. But, you know, there's never really been an exhibition of Balkan culture in the U.S. to the extent that we can actually talk about what we do. And what we do is we study the later prehistory of this part of the world. What does that mean? That means we study the time period from the Neolithic when people lived in small villages where people were relatively equal, and we study how things changed over time and how we end up with some of the earliest kingdoms in Europe. And that's exactly what this exhibition does. We chose to be very optimistic, we chose to be very brave, and we went around, and starting in 2017, we went and met people from all of the different Balkan countries. This is 11 countries from the Greek border up to Slovenia, Hungary, and Romania. And we said, hey, we would like to do this exhibition. We would like to have an exhibition that travels around North America and that tells people about the glorious cultural heritage of this part of the world. There have been exhibitions that are small that focus on specific parts of this bigger story, but there's never been a really big story like this told in North America. And I'm in Chicago. There are huge communities from the Balkans that live in Chicago, many of whom don't even know. They're not connected to their ancient past. So we saw this as a real unique opportunity. We went around, we came over here, we met with Nancy and the folks at ABF and said, how crazy are we? And we went to about 30 different museums. And in the end, we got 26 different museums from these 11 countries to contribute artifacts to this exhibition that is currently on display in Chicago, Illinois. It's an amazing story that really focuses on how we went from these societies where people were relatively equal to societies where you woke up one day and you were either an elite or you were a commoner, where the decisions of the few dictated the lives of the many. And in a way, this exhibition tells the story of how we got to where we are today. So we make references throughout the exhibition to the ancient world to let people understand how we live in a modern world with severe political, economic, and social inequalities. One of the most fulfilling parts of this project was working with people like Peppa, who, after all of these years, after she had been in Chicago, is now in charge of exhibitions at the National Museum here in Sofia. And so it was developing relationships with people like Peppa, building on those relationships that let us tell this story. And so I want to thank people like Peppa, because if it wasn't for my colleagues throughout the region who made this show happen, and it was a lot of work for them, it would have never happened. But I also want to thank you, Благодаря ви, because it's you that really are letting us tell your story in North America. And this is really, truly exceptional. And so I really want to thank you for that opportunity. It's really a privilege. For me, it's an opportunity of a lifetime. Okay, Peppa, so we've known each other for a while. We might have drank a couple beers at cafes on archaeological projects. When we showed up and started talking about this exhibition, this big exhibition that's drawing material from 11 different countries, how crazy did people think that we were?
I thought that you're crazy for sure. Because not that you brought all these countries together, but you brought countries which even don't deal with each other together. And for me, this was amazing. This shows how the cultural heritage is the biggest diplomacy of one country, showing everything. But your crazy idea was quite well accepted from my colleagues, so we adopted this idea, and we wanted to put Bulgaria on the map on such a show, especially at the Field Museum. I owe so much to the Field Museum and to you guys, learning so much about everything there. And what was amazing for me, it was during the preparation for the exhibition, I understand actually that Bulgaria is going to be presented 130 years after the first at the Columbian Fair, and when just 6 years after the liberation of Bulgaria, she was on the map in Chicago with a small pavilion which was presenting the Bulgarian raw soil. So 130 years, Bulgaria is again in the Field Museum. What was amazing for me, it was that our most famous writer, Aleco Constantinov, he wrote a novel, a travel book about his experience to Chicago. And he described the pavilion and the guy, Mr. Shopov, who was responsible for this part. And he wrote literally that he was explaining to everybody where is Bulgaria after they smelled the beautiful raw soil. So what happened to me at the Field Museum, it was the same. I was staying to our beautiful showcases with this material, and everybody was coming, and I was saying, this is from my country. I'm from Bulgaria. This is from my country. And there were so many people who were coming and saying, oh, Bulgaria, where is Bulgaria? And I felt like Mr. Shopov. North of Greece, near Turkey. And what was most important for me, it was that actually people, they say, oh, that's interesting. I would like to visit Bulgaria. And I was like, yes, we have more there. You could see more.
Just a little bit more.
Yeah. So isn't that amazing? Actually, 26 museums, 11 countries, but we finish with Bulgaria. The crown of this king exhibition is the Bulgarian artifacts. So the people there enter with 26 museums and they live with Bulgaria in their mind. What is better than this as an advertisement? Come and visit Bulgaria. So this exhibition is very important, I think, for us, the Bulgarians, because I had some questions like, why? Why? Because come and visit Bulgaria.
Yeah, and we've had over 200,000 people. You know, as an academic, I write books, and you know, maybe a couple hundred people like Peppa will read them if I'm lucky. But an exhibition like this, we've already had over 200,000 people just in Chicago. And so we expect by the end of the run of the exhibition, we will have 750,000 view these objects and learn about this important, amazing cultural history of this part of the world. We also did the academic things, and there's a bunch of books out there. You can find them online. But it's really been an absolute privilege. So, Peppa, I think we're at time, but so what's next?
Actually, I start with this, I had a dream. Now we have a dream with Bill, and actually the dream is this exhibition, this 26 museum, to come and to visit the National Museum of History. This great exhibition to be presented in Bulgaria. Thanks to the America for Bulgaria, it is possible. So we hope that will happen very soon.
We do have a dream, and if it would be possible to bring this exhibition back to this part of the world and have it travel, it would be one of the most gratifying things that I've ever done. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Благодаря.
Благодаря.